You're watching CoastLife, and on the Delmarva coast, there are so many people who make it super unique. And as you can see, one of those people is our chief meteorologist, Paul Williams. So Paul, how are you doing today?
Está bien. Prefiero español, no problema. Sí, muy bien ahora mismo. Mucho cansado porque en la pasada semana mucho trabajo porque en el problema de área en nuestra área. Tenemos un mal calidad indexo para esta nuestra área. We have problems with air quality in the area. So yeah, it's been a real hard week. Muy difícil.
So Paul, how long have you been working with Coast TV?
Wow. Since it started.
And how many years ago was that?
That was 4 years.
Okay. So what made you be a meteorologist, Paul?
I started off as a news reporter, and I actually have awards, AP awards, as an investigative reporter. Yeah, most people don't know that.
Oh, now we do.
Yeah,
That's cool.
That's the scoop. That's
Okay.
the scoop. That's the scoop. That's this show's scoop. Nobody else know. So, but what happened was my news director, his name was Walter Sadler, and he was the first black news director and anchor in the Jackson market.
Wow.
He's my boss. So I trusted him just because he knew what he was doing. So he was like, okay, so opening up came up on the weekend to do weather. And I'm at the CBS station, which was the #2 station. And so he decided we couldn't find anybody to do weather on the weekend. So what happened was I said, well, in order for me to be Tom Brokaw, I need some anchoring experience. He's like, well, if you go ahead and do this weather, just do this stupid little weather thing, and then I'll see about, putting you on as a news anchor. I'm like, cool. So what I did was went in there, I literally learned the Cavor's machine in about a day. I talked to him Wednesday, went to the computer Thursday, learned it Friday, practiced Friday, did the weather on Saturday, right? So when I did the weather Saturday and Sunday, I literally did the weather, didn't stumble one bit, 2 days, because I was auditioning for news. I come off, I see him Monday, I'm like, hey, what do you think? Hey, am I in? He's like, you did all right. He said, I think that was beginner's luck, so we're gonna try again next week, but I've already got some people coming in to interview for weather, so just hold it for another week.
Right.
I'm like, cool, because I ain't trying to do this for real. I wasn't.
Okay.
I'm not like Alex loved weather since he was born. Jeanette liked weather before she was born. Bob was born in weather. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm the weirdo.
So what made you stay?
When I looked up, I realized at that time, the national people who were doing weather were all black men. They were Mark McEwen, Al Roker, Spencer Christian. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute, there's a pattern here. If I want to be on a major morning show, maybe this weather gig is the way to go. So I was like, maybe I'll stay here for a minute, but I still wasn't all convinced of it. So here's what happened. I didn't really know about ratings back then. So when the ratings book came back, then apparently the #2 station was here and the #1 station was here, because it was like that.
Right.
So then what happened was the #1 station then called me in the same market and said, hey, we want you to come over and anchor our show. I thought they were calling me for a news anchor job.
Right.
I didn't realize they were calling me for a weather job. And so when the news director there, his name is Dennis Smith. So Smith says, well, I'll tell you what, Williams, you come over and do weather for us. And I'm like, I'm not trying to do weather for you. He said, well, what would it take? I was like, so I thought I was going to teach them a lesson for insulting my ability. So I said, I want this amount of money. Thought I was asking for something. It was in their budget anyway. But the second part was, I said, and so I thought I would make something up that was impossible. So I said, and if I'm gonna do weather, you have to send me to school to get a degree, and I don't want to be obligated to pay you back the money. Because I figured there was no weather schools in all of Mississippi. And he was like, oh, okay, I'll get back with you. Hung up the phone. I was strutting around in my 1-bedroom apartment at that point, and I was strutting around, thought I had taught them a lesson. Smith called me up. He said, hey, William, he says, you're in luck. We found a program for you. I was like,
Be careful what you wish for.
Right?
Right.
I was like, ooh. Now I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to drive to, somewhere like Memphis or Louisiana, and I'm gonna have to do these long distance classes. I said, well, where's the school? He said, oh, no, it's here in Jackson. So I'm thinking, oh, William Carey or Heinz Community. I was like, what school? He says, you don't even know, do you? I said, no. He says, Jackson State has the only accredited full meteorology department in the state of Mississippi. My jaw hit the ground. Boom. He said, not only do you not have an excuse not to go, He said, we sending you back to the school you just came from. I just graduated a year and a half before. Finished a 4-year degree in two years, and I've been in weather ever since.
That's amazing.
That's literally how I ended up being in weather. So, and since then I've learned a love for it. I appreciate it because I do like the part where it affects people's lives. I'm able to share information. I'm naturally a teacher to a great extent.
And what would you say makes you so passionate about weather?
The thing that I think I like the most is this. When people need someone to give them directions on how to save their family, I'm serious as death. And the important thing for me is the reason why I am so jovial all other times, because when I'm serious and I'm not playing, that's a fun guy. He's not joking. He's not playing. When I'm serious and I'm looking at you and I'm saying, I need you to hear me right now. We have a problem. Here's what this storm is. You see how my demeanor is just changed?
Whole demeanor.
Whole different. That means that people know that I'm serious and I'm not selling what my mama and my grandmama used to call wolf tickets, because if you sell wolf tickets too many times, if you cry wolf too many times, people don't hear you.
That's the truth.
And so I like the fact that I'm able to make a clear delineation between serious, threatening weather and situations, and when it's time to be whatever. Enjoy life. Life is too short. Because I'm gonna tell you something. When you survive heart attacks, cancer, and COVID, you learn to love life like I have. I've survived all 3 of them. So.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. So I take every day like it's the last one. I live every day like it's the last one.
Yeah. Well, Paul, it was so great to hear your story, and we appreciate you on CoastLife. So when we get back from the break, Paul's going to show us how to be a meteorologist.
I am.
You are. There's more CoastLife on the way. Before the break, we got to know a little bit about Paul, and now Paul is going to teach us how to be a meteorologist. So Paul, walk me through the steps of becoming a meteorologist. What do you do first thing in the morning or afternoon?
First you have to be very serious about your job.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So today we're talking about air quality. Air quality has been a real big story here. So a lot of times people say, well, you just do weather, No, actually, here's the thing about being a meteorologist that most people don't get. When you're a meteorologist, particularly if you're the chief, you're the scientist of the building. So no matter what science story comes through, they expect you to be the expert. Right? So something comes through about earthquakes, they say, Paul, what about the earthquake? I need to know about seismic activity. And I've done that. And I've done interviews and I've done stories about that. And I have that set up on my computer so that I can show you seismic activity. Also with air quality. So air quality is more of an environmental thing, right?
Right.
So like right here, we've got air quality indexes and stuff like that. We've been dealing with unhealthy levels of pollutants and then and ozone, unhealthy for 55 to 150 parts per million and all of that. So we have these models that begin to push through to show us what's happening with our modeling. So a lot of TV meteorology deals with the manipulation of the maps and all that kind of stuff. So it's really a lot of, to be quite honest about it, like creations or computer art to a certain extent. There's an art to telling the story. Now, a lot of meteorologists, I think they missed the mark in this sense. You can get, I can grab my phone.
Okay.
I can grab my phone and I can get weather information from my phone anytime, right? Can't get that one because that's the best app on the planet right there, in case you didn't know, by the way. But with the app and all this information, somebody needs to interpret it because because if I am in the path of a storm and some guy saying, oh, well, it's just a storm passing your way and it'll be over. But when I'm in the storm, I'm looking around, it looks like a tornado to me. You need to tell me what it is, And so I believe in the art of telling the story of the weather in a way that can be relatable to everyone. So even when it came down to this air quality thing, there's a lot of moving parts that made it so that, the air quality became worse here. Well, I came up with a scheme that made it pretty easy for everybody to understand.
Okay.
For example, I said, well, we have a front from the north, or a front from the south, and we have a low pressure system that's spinning everything. And so we got this one coming from this way, this one coming from this way, and what's happening is creating a squeeze play. Well, everybody understands squeeze.
Right.
Right? But also, it has a lot to do with the density of the particles becoming more. Now, if I go into densities, D is equal to M over V, okay, density is equal to mass over volume, which everybody pretty much knows if you have any exposure to science. But if I'm doing that on TV, that's going to sound like, the lady from the Charlie Brown cartoon. Wah, 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 right?
Yes.
All right. But if I say, this is going to squeeze things and make it like your mama's pound cake versus your mama's angel food cake. See, now you got it, right?
I got the visual.
You got the visual.
Mm-hmm.
You know what pound cakes feels like. You know how light angel cake feels like, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I said, and that difference in how heavy that's density. So there's more. So right now we're dealing with a pound cake of air pollutants instead of an angel cake of pollutants.
Got you.
And see, that's how you tell the story of weather, but still stay scientifically correct. And so I think that's my gift to what I bring to what I do. Because anybody can say high 55 degrees, low 76, which is wrong. I flipped it on purpose. But but you have to be able to tell the story in a way that people can relate, understand, and apply.
Right.
So another thing is, like, a lot of people say, well, how serious do I need to take it? And I tell people flat out, well, if it's a watch, here's what you do. And I always like using grandma as an example. If it's a watch, the ingredients are on the table and she's still making the pie. That's a watch. If it's a warning, she already put it in the oven and it's coming out.
Got you.
That's the difference between watch and warning. And if it's an emergency, it's out of the oven and it's hot. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So now you're going, oh, wait a minute, what does that mean? That means you need to not touch it. That means you need to get moving. It's an emergency. That means it's going to affect a dense amount of population, and it's a dangerous storm. Because there's such thing as a severe thunderstorm emergency or tornado emergency versus even a warning. So those are different levels to different things. And I do the same thing with tropical systems.
Paul, thank you so much for sharing your story and teaching us how to be a meteorologist. There's more Coast Life on the way.